Welcome. I am Tanya Lamo, the Extension Director and Horticulture Agent for Dare County Cooperative Extension. Thank you for joining us today through this series, Advice to Grow By. Each month, we'll dig into the many facets of the wild and wonderful world of horticulture. So whether you're a novice plant collector or if your thumb is already bright green, join us as we share information and resources to expand your skills and knowledge, from understanding plant basics, growing and gardening tips, to knowing what plants work best in your landscape. Every month, we'll water your plant and garden knowledge. Just a few words about North Carolina Cooperative Extension. North Carolina State Extension extends research-based knowledge to all North Carolinians, helping them transform science into everyday solutions that improve their lives and grow our state. So today, as we settle into spring in North Carolina, it's time to welcome the ruby-throated hummingbird to the area. These birds have been given their name due to the humming sound made by their wings while in flight. Notable features are their size, their high energy, and their iridescent feathers. So as I mentioned, today's topic is gardening for hummingbirds. We're going to cover migration, how to plant to grow wild so you can be better equipped to attract wildlife to your garden and your landscape. And then I'm going to review a few suggested plants for you that will help you attract hummingbirds to your area. So identifying the ruby-throated hummingbird begins with identifying the male, as he is the most colorful and the easiest to identify. And here's a video. You can see the most prominent feature that the male has is its throat, which is ruby colored, while other features to look for include the white breast that he has and his emerald feathers on the back of him, and he also has white tips on his tail. And here's another picture of the hummingbird flitting at a feeder. And the female has an emerald color back as well, like the male, while her other features include a white breast, and she does not have a colored throat, but she does have the white tips on the end of her tail. And here's another video of the female visiting some lantana. The ruby-throated hummingbirds are the only species of hummingbirds that breed in North Carolina. It is considered a neotropical migratory bird, and neotropical means new world. So they mostly winter in Mexico and Central America, and then they breed in the summer in the temperate climate of North America. So each year they migrate north from Mexico and Central America, and then they fly back south in the winter, and again spend the bulk of their year in that area. Generally, the ruby-throated hummingbirds are abundant in a range of habitat types throughout the southeast region of the country, and they build small nests of lichens and spider webs on tops of trees, generally about 10 to 30 feet in the air. So it's really interesting to look. If you discover one of their nests, they're beautiful works of art. This map I have up on the screen is from Hummingbird Central. It's one of the you can drop in where you might have sighted a hummingbird in your area. So they're kind of fun. It's an interactive self-reporting map. And then there is also, here I zeroed in on Dare County, and as of March 30th, 2021, there were a few sightings reported through this interactive map. So if you're interested in participating in sighting sharing, I would encourage you to do so because it's fun to see where they might be located or if they're getting close to your area. This is one. There's another one called A Journey North, which you can also participate in as well. And in fact, my daughter over the weekend sighted a hummingbird on our back patio, so that was kind of exciting. And I should go in here and share that information as well. So backyards and other small garden areas can be extremely valuable for hummingbirds. So with a little planning and a little work, these areas can be easily managed to benefit these lovely nectar seekers. It's important to have a soil test done before you do any plantings, or if you've had an area that's been established for a while and you might be noticing some decline, we offer soil tests available to you at the North Carolina Cooperative Extension. So please feel free to contact us. And then also considering including trees and shrubs in your landscape if you're considering, if your focus is to attract hummingbirds to your area. And then it's also a good idea to help create an area where it might be protected from the wind by planting them next to a fence or a building. That would be helpful as well to eliminate the amount of wind that blows across the garden. So I encourage you to plant to grow wild. Creating a less manicured landscapes provides you with more opportunity to attract and enjoy nature's visitors. One thing to remember when planting to attract nature, you want to minimize the use of chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides, as this can cause damage or death to the insects that many of the wildlife will feed on and use as a food source. So just consider that as you're treating your garden for pests and weeds, that sometimes that can really damage your wildlife atmosphere. And also, I always feel that planting to grow wild can be a little bit less maintenance required versus a very manicured landscape. Anytime I plant a new border garden or a landscape, I really try to plan to have blooms, color, or point of interest that will last throughout our growing season and possibly into the winter. So planting an all-season blooming garden not only keeps your garden beautiful and interesting, it helps ensure that hummingbirds will have a consistent food source. Hummingbirds are daytime feeders, and the ruby-throated hummingbirds feed on small insects and nectar. So consider planting a variety of plants with staggered bloom times so you have that food available throughout your growing season. And I've collected a variety of examples that provide you with some ideas and inspiration so you can plant a bit more wild as you plant. And you can see they have wonderful color and a lot of movement opportunity, and they are easy attractors to nature. So here's a garden. This has lots of bright colors, which very much attracts the pollinators and hummingbirds. It has blooming right now Lantana and Monarda. And then there's some other red flowers in the background there, but it's just beautiful and it's really easy and would, again, provide a lot of movement as well. And this one is a little bit more orderly, but again, it has staggered bloom times. Some of the plants in the front may have already bloomed, and they're in the mid-season of the summer, and they just have lots of bright color at different eye levels, and it will probably continue to be beautiful throughout the season. And I think this is just a back view or a different view of the one we just looked at. And here's another one full of bright colors at all different levels. So this would be very attractive to hummingbirds and to butterflies as well. And if you aren't able to install a new planting or you don't have a lot of room to install a garden or change your landscape, hummingbirds can also be attracted to your house through container gardens. And these are some examples of beautiful container gardens that have bright colors, and they're just created and then put up against a flower bed that's already been established. I've had great success through the years just having container gardens on my patio, and that is what most of the hummingbirds are attracted to if I plant the correct plants. Here's another one. This is a wild planting, but they are in containers, but they've arranged them so that it looks natural. And some others that are backed up against some already established plantings and perennials. So ruby-throated hummingbirds prefer nectar from bright tubular-shaped flowers. They are attracted not only to sunny areas, but anything red really draws them in. Or if you have plants and flowers with other brightly colored blooms, I would suggest planting them whenever possible. We have a lot of native plants that can fill the bill where our nectar seekers are concerned, and I would encourage you to use them whenever possible. So today I'm going to share with you just a handful of suggested plants that would help you in your journey to attract hummingbirds to your garden successfully. This certainly is not an exhaustive list, but it is a few really great plants that you could plant here in North Carolina and in Dare County. And I've included some natives as well. So the Carolina Jessamine is native to North Carolina and born in the South. It's commonly called Carolina Jessamine, and it is a terrific native for Carolina landscapes. It's admired for its sweetly scented canary yellow flowers, and it really puts on a show from February to April. So if you remember back, I said, it's a good idea to try to plant so you have blooms throughout all the seasons. This is an early bloomer. So you might have blooms showing on this in early February, and they may go to early spring. And that just depends on the weather and how temperate or cold our climate gets throughout the season. One thing to note, this plant has a high severity of poison characteristics. So if you do have small children or animals that might get into this, you may want to plant it in an area that would keep it out of their reach. The crossvine, Bignania capreolata, is also known as the trumpet flower. It is a vigorous vine that climbs using tendrils to wrap around stems or bark for support. It likes to grow up tall objects like fences or pine trees. It gets its name because if you cut a cross section of the stem, it will resemble the Greek cross. It is in North Carolina. It's usually shown with dark glossy green foliage, so it's really pretty. It has a beautiful foliage as well, and it is native to the southeastern U.S. And it grows fairly well in many different types of soil. Just a note, as you can see in the picture on the right-hand side, it's climbing up a tree, so make sure you plant this where you want the vine to be covering an area. So if you have a trellis or a fence, or if you plant it close to some trees, just know that you may need to manage the control of that and be aware of that. And again, this plant blooms from late winter to early spring. So as the hummingbirds are starting to show up in our area, this would be in bloom, and it's a perfect way to attract them to your landscape. The coral honeysuckle, Lonicera sempervirens, is commonly called trumpet honeysuckle. It is a vigorous twining vine that primarily is native to the southeastern United States. It does grow in some shade, but best flowers in full sun, which is, if you remember, hummingbirds like to feed in sunny areas. It does well in soil with good drainage, and this plant flowers in mid-spring, so around the same time, many of these vines will be in bloom. It is often non-fragrant, but it does add a very showy display to your landscape and to your garden. So bee balm, this was in one of the landscape pictures that I shared with you earlier. Monarda dichima is a deciduous perennial in the mint family, and it is native to the North Carolina mountains. It grows 2 to 4 feet high with scarlet flowers that bloom for up to 8 weeks and attract hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies. And so this has a nice long bloom time, and it gives you like a mid-level eye range of blooms in your garden and color. They have developed many different cultivars of this. So while I'm showing you a pinkish purple and a red, they continue to work on different colors that still are very successful in attracting nature and hummingbirds to your garden. Just to note, these plants can be susceptible to powdery mildew and rust. But I think as they develop new cultivars, they are working on building them to be more disease resistant than others. But it's a fantastic perennial plant that you can add to your garden. Blue lobelia blooms in summer to late fall, and it is Downy Lobelia, a perennial herbaceous wildflower. It's in the bellflower family, and it's native to eastern and south central United States. It is the most common blue-colored flower, and you'll notice in the centers that it gets a white to pinkish tubular center, which again is a sign that a hummingbird would be very attracted to this. And it does have later blooms, so when you're thinking about scheduling out your bloom times in your garden, this one will be putting on a show in mid to late summer and early fall. The cardinal flower, Lobelia cardinalis, you can see exactly why hummingbirds are attracted to this. It's a herbaceous perennial that may grow 4 to 5 feet tall, and it grows very well in rich, medium to wet soil, in full sun to part shade. So if you have some trees and some partially shaded areas in your landscape, this is a great alternative for you to use to bring color to that area. It was selected in 1982, 1983, and in 2001 as the North Carolina Wildflower of the Year. And that program is managed by the North Carolina Botanical Gardens. This blooms late summer to early fall as well. So again, it's a great way to stretch out your points of interest and your color and your food sources in your garden throughout the year. Wild columbine, Aquilegia canadensis, is a native herbaceous perennial. This is found in woodland habitats, and it really does best in shade to part shade. But I selected this one because it's a very early bloomer, and it has beautiful, unusual foliage. Blooms. And this is one example. I was in a garden center over the weekend, and they had some in periwinkle and white and just yellows and dark burgundies. So they have these very unusual blossoms. And while it is a perennial, it often too will reseed quite quickly from year to year. So it's an interesting plant. And once the flowers pass, it creates a very nice ground cover for you as well. And I like to add this to naturalized areas. So when we're thinking about planting wild, this is a perfect fit. And it really does make a showy attraction for hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees. Penstemon, or smoothbeard tongue, is a herbaceous perennial. It grows about 2 to 3 feet tall. It is a North Carolina native, and it generally has purplish to white blooms, and they appear in open clusters on the upper parts of the stems. This blooms from May through July, so it has a nice long bloom cycle, which provides color to your garden for many months. And it grows well in medium water use, and it's low maintenance. It's a low maintenance plant. There are many different types of cultivars and varieties of this as well, so it makes an excellent choice for you to attract hummingbirds to your garden. Lantana, or Lantana camara, is a small perennial shrub. It's often used as a houseplant. It works so well. It's so versatile. It works well in hanging baskets, flower gardens, container gardens, and it sometimes can be cultivated as a woody shrub, and some people try to use it as a ground cover as well. It has the opportunity to perennialize, which means that it might come back the next year, depending on how cold our winters get here in the coastal area of North Carolina. But it blooms from mid to late summer and through early fall. I would say this is a winner if you are considering attracting wildlife to your garden. I would put this on your list of suggested plants to purchase. And pineapple sage, or Salvia elegans, is somewhat drought tolerant. The leaves will begin to drop if they don't get enough water, so be aware of that. But it is a hummingbird favorite, and this blooms in late summer to early fall. And this is good because sometimes the food sources aren't as readily available during that time. So this draws out the feeding opportunities a little bit longer. And salvia, while this is pineapple sage, and these are the pictures I have of it, there are many different varieties and cultivars of salvia as well that you can add that can bring lots of color to your container gardens and to your landscape. And it should provide you with great success in attracting our feathered nectar seekers. And zinnia, this is an annual plant. It's very low maintenance. It's heat and drought tolerant, and it comes in a wide variety of colors. It has many cultivars. Some are low growing, some are mid growing, and some can get quite tall. So it is very versatile depending on which cultivar you choose. And it can be used, so that allows you to plant it in the front of your garden, in the middle, or the back. And it's great also for container gardens or for mass planting. And I think this is perfect for additional mid to late season color. In addition, I love to add these to my gardens because they easily make a beautiful bouquet to bring inside, to bring the summer inside a little bit as well. And then I have one more annual to share with you, the Snapdragon. This is a short-lived tender perennial. It's grown as an annual mostly, and it does well in moist, rich, well-drained soil. You do want to avoid overhead watering if you have these because it can make the plant topple over. but it is, again, available in many different colors and varieties and heights. So if you need to add a burst of color to your garden, Snapdragon is a great selection. And it also works very well as in a container garden and if you're planting for cut flower gardens as well. So as I always recommend, be sure to read the label anytime you're purchasing plants. This helps inform you about the bloom season, about the growth habit, where you should plant it. So if it likes full sun, part shade, this will give you the information specific to that cultivar and variety that you're buying, that you're purchasing. And it also helps identify what uses might be available for it and how tall it will grow, and then also the growing culture. So always be sure to read the label anytime you're purchasing plants. I mentioned earlier about the soil test. This is a great idea to do on a fairly regular basis, and anytime you are installing a new garden or landscape, I would encourage you to contact us for a soil test, and we will provide you with the kit. Currently, from April to November, the testing is free, so you just have to pay for the shipping to get it to the test center. Now, if you don't have room to add any new plantings to your garden, and if you don't have space on a deck or a patio or porch, hummingbird feeders are a good alternative source of artificial nectar. And it's recommended that you boil 4 parts water with 1 part sugar and use that in the hummingbird feeder. It is not recommended to add honey or any of the red food coloring. While there is much sold on the market that is red, it's not recommended, and you really don't need to add that to attract the hummingbirds to your feeders. Your feeders can be left up year-round, so that's always exciting. And the hummingbirds will visit you when they are in the area. If you're having troubles with bees, wasps, or other insects, you may want to consider a 5-part water to 1 part sugar ratio just to detract them from your feeder. And also feeders that have yellow tend to attract the insects to them a little bit more than ones that would not have the yellow on them. And then always be sure to clean your feeders on a regular basis. It's suggested about once a week that you clean and disinfect them, and then change the nectar if it doesn't get eaten about every 3 to 5 days. So just a bit of information about how you can connect with us. If you'd like more information about gardening for hummingbirds, or if you'd like to connect with the Dare County Extension Master Gardeners, you can visit us at the Dare County Extension website at dare.ces.ncsu.edu. And I also have a QR code you're able to scan to take you right there. Our wonderful master gardeners are very busy right now. They are going to be stationed at Manio on Monday starting April 19th. So if you have a question and you'd like to visit, you may contact us there. And then they'll also be at the Dare County Arboretum starting April 14th. They will have a table set up there where you can bring your gardening questions to them, and they will provide you with the resources for your question. Another fantastic tool and resource that I can provide you with is the link to the North Carolina Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox. This allows you to research and investigate many different types of plants that do well all over the state, and you can learn different cultivars, their growing height, their growing preferences, and it's just a fantastic resource. So that's found at plants.ces.ncsu.edu. And then we are very busy at Dare County Cooperative Extension, and I wanted to share with you a few things that we have coming up on the calendar. The Master Gardeners have been busy working on the Library Garden Series, and our last one will be held April 21st through the Dare County Library System, and that will be focusing on drought-tolerant plants. We also have Earth Day, and that will be held at the Outer Banks Arboretum on April 22nd. They will be talking about the Arboretum and then showcasing the beautiful azaleas that are there on the grounds. And that would be a treat to be able to see. On April 26th, our family consumer science agent, Dee Furlaw, is holding a pressure canner testing all day during our office hours. So if you're interested in that, again, just please visit our website or give us a call and we can provide you with more information. And this Advice to Grow By series will continue the first Friday of every month. And next month, we are going to be discussing tips and issues that you might be facing with live oaks. So be sure to tune in for that and look for more information on our website related to that. And then our Master Gardeners are also hosting a Master Gardener plant sale on May 15th. This is in lieu of the Coastal Gardening Festival. But if you are interested in purchasing some plants to add to your landscape and gardens, please be sure to visit us, and that will be held at the Dare County Arboretum behind the Balm Center. Here's a list of some of the resources I used today for this presentation. So if you have any questions related to things I discussed with you, this is some of the areas where I was looking for information to provide to you. And I thank you for joining us today for Advice to Grow By. Thank you.